approved, and some of it is landlords won't.
Okay, we're going live.
Okay.
We're going live.
Gotcha.
Good morning and welcome to the Charles County Delegation meeting. Today's date is Friday, March 10th. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting. The agenda has been forwarded ahead of time, and we have a special guest today, the Director of Charles County Department of Social Services, Ms. Therese Wolf, who's asked to come before the delegation. And Therese, I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Davis. I really appreciate your time, and I'm going to try to not take up a lot of it. The issue I wanted to talk about is housing for our older kids who are leaving foster care. And I have two issues at the moment. One is more urgent and related to a young lady who is going to be 21 in May and will be aging out with her 3 children under 3 years old. The larger issue is more something to look towards next legislative season for, but it's also related to housing. We do not have housing. We don't have housing in Southern Maryland for the most part, but certainly in Charles County for these older kids in foster care. Charles County DSS is, we always have older kids in foster care. Of the 3 Southern Maryland counties down here, we're the ones that always have kids age 16 and older in foster care. St. Mary's and Calvert often have less older kids. The issue that we have more broadly is that as our kids begin to be 16, 17, and 18, and they're ready for apartments or they're ready for independent living programs, they always end up in Baltimore City, Baltimore County. Some of them are in Allegheny County. And what we are discovering by looking at our data is we lose those kids. They age out of care, meaning that they end up leaving foster care with no good resources. Because they live so far from us, our ability to stay in good contact with them is limited. So I'm looking at ways to keep these kids closer, if not in Charles County. The issue that we have is again, we don't have housing opportunities for them. The child I'm talking about right now is Angelina. She is 20 years old. She's got 3 kids under the age of 3. Her life has been more stable the last 2 years. We have chased this child around the country. She's been sex trafficked. It is her history. There's just a lot of issues related to that. My concern clearly is the 2 issues. One is that if she doesn't have a reliable place to live that we can continue to support her as she turns 21, she will lose her 3 children and she will end up back as an adult sex trafficker. Sorry?
That was Delegate Harris unmuted, but he's fine now.
Okay, so I'm looking at a couple of things. What I'm looking at right now is there are no housing vouchers that are available to these kids in Charles County. I'm working with the national organization to get a housing voucher for Angelina. What we don't have is a place to put her, and we would like to keep her closer to us if we can. She is in Baltimore County. She's been in an independent living program that has an apartment for her, but as she ages out, she can't stay there. She'd like to stay in Baltimore County. We have said to her, we will try to either keep you there or we will try to bring you back here. I'm looking for options, to be honest with you, because I don't know where else to go to look for an apartment for her. We're going to try to work with housing here. We're learning about vouchers that we can ask for on demand for our older kids. But the larger issue for us with Angelina is no place to put her. I don't know what I'm asking you for, unless if you have an apartment you'd like to rent, I'll take it. But as our legislators, you know a lot of people. I'm looking to see whether or not you have any thoughts or any resources that might be of help. The larger issue is I would like to talk over the course of the next months with you, with any of you that may be interested in terms of how we might build some resources down here for our older kids. We're not talking, in a perfect world, any older kid who comes into foster care, we could treat him here if he needed residential care. We could treat him in Charles County. You know, if he needs a foster home, we would have one for him here. Those things don't exist. I mean, we're trying to get more foster care here, whatever, but at some point, I can't serve every need of a child in foster care here in Charles County. But if we could do more with our older kids in our county here as they approach age 18 and older, we would do much better with these kids. Our new secretary for DHS, Rafael Lopez, has set one of his goals for the next 4 years that no child ever ages out of foster care in Maryland. And I think that's a reasonable goal. And we, you know, again, we tend to have 6 to 8 kids that are aged like 16 to 21. We're not talking about a huge number of kids, but I'd like to talk with this contingent or members of it about possible ideas for legislation, maybe going into next year, where we might get some support from the General Assembly around better resources for these kids in Charles County. Or we may find some opportunities here to build apartments, to work with a landlord who would commit to renting to our older kids. But again, I've kind of tried to do this in other areas, and it's not been very successful. And I've decided the best place to reach out is to my legislators. So again, I'm looking for something for Angelina. Any ideas you might have? I'm looking at how you might be interested in talking about, again, something that going forward where we might be able to plan something for all of our older kids. I hope that that's clear. And my apologies. The email for today's meeting went to my junk file. I did not know that. And so I'm not as prepared for this as I would have liked to be, but I hope that my ask is clear. And if you have questions, please let me know.
Delegate Patterson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wolf, for bringing this to our attention. You know, Senator Ellis and I were part of the Joint Committee on Ending Homelessness, and certainly that was brought to our attention. But I think that there are several groups, I'm not sure whether you partnered with them. We just had a discussion from Southern Maryland Tri-County Council Action, whatever the title is, the exact title. But they too are looking at workforce or affordable housing, et cetera. And have you ever worked with or talked with anyone with Southern Maryland Realtors about apartments or housing availability in an emergency situation like this?
We have not. So that would be a place to go.
The other one is to look at best practices, and certainly I will reach out to Senator Washington, Mary Washington, because she still is very passionate about that. And you're right on target. And that's why when, I don't know if you were listening to Senator Van Hollen, he's with housing, that it is a national issue. And certainly in Charles County, it has not abated at all. Nope. So I thank you very much for bringing this to our attention and focus.
And thank you, Delegate Patterson. I will follow up with Southern Maryland Realtors. I have talked to some realtors that I know, but in terms of getting to a group of folks who might be willing to sit down and work with us around options, we've not done that. So I will follow up with them as well.
Ms. Wolf, as you know, Chairman Wilson is very passionate about this issue too. So we will put our heads together. You know, Delegate Patterson mentioned something about best practices. What are other people doing in other jurisdictions, maybe across the country, that is something that we could look at?
There are a variety of things. A number of areas have like small apartment buildings that are solely for older youth. They are managed by somebody in the community. They're owned and managed by someone in the community, but there is they are completely devoted to older youth who are leaving care. There is some additional funding that's provided to those kinds of landlords to deal with things like repairs or whatever over time. And so they're not independent living programs, but they are apartments that are simply available for older youth leaving care. There are vouchers. There's something called the Family Unification Program. There's also foster youth independence vouchers that are available and used around the country. Now, this is something, even since I contacted you, that I've discovered is that we have the FUP vouchers, the Family Unification vouchers in Southern Maryland, but they're not available in Charles County. What I have discovered is the foster youth to independence vouchers. We had them and we've lost them. We were not able to fill the vouchers. And so they were taken and reissued elsewhere in the country. But I've contacted a national association that looks at this issue, and we're learning more about these vouchers and how to use them. The point of all of that being, there are some housing vouchers that we can access on demand, and we can plan for a youth to move into an apartment, but we have to have the housing group here in Charles County willing and ready to work with us. So I will be doing some work with them. They need to understand these vouchers better. I'm saying that to go back to your question of, I think some of the best practices in other areas of the country are a stronger relationship between housing and social services and the schools around identifying these kids and what their needs are, and then providing the housing for them as well as any other needs that may be available. Again, I think the biggest issue we tend to have is, and what we're seeing from best practices, keep kids in their own community, make sure that they have access to an apartment, obviously, that they can maintain, and then the support of social services and the schools around both their educational and vocational needs. And I mean, that's, the best practices are not necessarily huge. It's more having, and Edith may have been right on target with things like having a realty association that's willing to work with us, understanding that sometimes working with these kids can be difficult. They may break things, they may not be the best tenants initially, but it's something that we work with. And so again, I go back to my initial comment about, often having a number of devoted spaces for older kids has been very helpful in a number of places around the country. I certainly can find specific examples of that and share that with you. I'm already thinking of a couple places I know of in California, another place in Oregon. So I will get a hold of their program plans and provide some details.
All right. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you reaching out. We all got your emails sounding the alarm that you really needed help. And that just shows how much you believe in us being able to help. So I appreciate that. Yeah. I remember when I was when I was a commissioner and I was on the DSS board, that this was an issue then. So I can imagine that it has been a long-standing problem. Now, we will work together over the interim to see how we can address it. But your immediate problem with Angelina, if we were to find a family who could use, like a grandparent who could use funding, or use some help financially, what are your vouchers, so that we could reach out to our constituents?
What are our vouchers?
How much?
They are not capped. They are based on apartment size and cost and the cost of living in an area. So we're pretty broad. I can find out and either send to you or Sharon a little more information because I'm sure there's a cap somewhere, but I don't know what it is, but I will find that out and share it.
We all belong to large churches. I think we need to just reach out there too.
That would be great. Okay, so it sounds like what might be helpful in Angelina's case, because yeah, I'm calling somebody that I used to rent from to see if he has any openings, and he doesn't. But I will find a couple of details about this voucher. Again, things like, is there a cap? I do know these vouchers can be good for up to 5 years. So we're not talking about a voucher for 1 year. We're talking about something extended. But I'll find out a few of the details about it and share it so that as you talk to people you all know, you at least can give them some information about what it looks like.
Therese, and are you willing to go on the church circuit? Because we can get you on the church circuit.
Sure, absolutely. I would love to. I have a couple of staff who would go with me. We'd be very happy to do that. We'll do anything to find homes for this girl, but for any of them, that would be great. Okay. Any ideas you guys have, if we can do it, we will join you. Yeah.
Yes. I appreciate your passion. I really do.
And I appreciate your help. I try not to ask much from the delegation. You guys have a lot of other work to do. I have a central office I can rely on. But yeah, I think these older kids are a big issue for us, and we need to be a lot more strategic and a lot more creative now about what we do to help them. So Angelina's our first issue. I'll get you a little more information about the voucher and what's available. And then I would like to talk more long-term. I'm going to go back real quickly to your comment about best practice. I'll give you one more. The other thing that I do know of is, and we were able to swing this with one kid, if we can put kids in an apartment, and if there is an adult or adults who are willing to stay connected to those kids and support them as they learn to be on their own, those kids do even better. We had a young man with autism. We found somebody in the county who would rent to him. We paid that rent for 6 months. And then got him a voucher for a couple, or other way around. He had a voucher and then we paid. This person helped this kid learn how to set a schedule for himself so that he did his laundry, did his shopping. Kid couldn't drive. This guy helped him over time get his license and learn to drive. So the young man lived on his own. I mean, he had his own apartment, he maintained it, but the landlord was there to kind of support him, not every day, not all day, but was there to provide additional support. That kind of mentoring we also know is very helpful to these kids. And a mentor who is not a social services worker or whatever makes a big difference. So,
okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, I will, anything that any ideas you have, please email me. I'm going to find out why this email didn't come through. Some of you have my direct cell, and I'll give that to you just in case you don't. You are always welcome to call me. It's 804-241-9322. And you can call me about this or anything else you may need, but please feel free.
Okay.
And thank you, Delegate Davis, and all of you. I appreciate you taking time.
Thank you, Therese. We'll get on it and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much. Have a very good day, and I hope everything goes peacefully with the remainder of the session.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You guys, the only other thing that I would like to present as we move forward is the LBI priority list. So thank you all who voted. And number one, the project that got the most votes was the Indian Head Grocery Initiative. Project that got the second amount of votes was the Lifestyles of Maryland Foundation, and third was Willing Helpers. So those will be our top three as we move forward. We all know it's a tough budget season, but those are what we're going to move forward. Are there any questions, concerns? Thank you so much. Anything else? Go ahead.
Justice, I'm noting that the LBI funding from last year, some of them are just moving forward. So I think that for those organizations that still need help, I think we got the funding for the $50,000 for Fenwick Senior Center. I think maybe that was extra funding from Chair Wilson.
It was.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question about, no, well, we can talk about it at another meeting. Is there anything else? For the good of the order, you guys, thank you for being here. All right, well, that concludes our meeting of the Charles County Delegation. Thank you all for being here. If you know anyone else who wants to speak before us, let us know, and we will add them to the agenda. Again, thank you. And I'll see you next time, Delegate Patterson, 2 weeks. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.